Wubba lubba dub dub! It's the DM freaking book club, you asshats. Now, welcome up. We're doing some D's and D's and putting it in our role-playing campaigns or some shit. I don't know. Wubba lubba dub dub! We're British.
Don't excuse it. Welcome to the DM's book club. A podcast which has gone completely off the rails, but I absolutely love it.
Freaking right.
Yes. Oh geez.
Yeah, I think we've shown the power dynamic. I'm the Rick, you are the Morty. That's what's happened.
I am certainly the Morty here.
I didn't realise that would be happening, but
it does. It does. Well, Hamilton, how are you? We'll start with that first. How are you? Are you okay?
Am I okay? Are you all right? Do you need some help? Yes, I am good. I'm sorry. It's reading this. What we're about to do today has got me in a space. I also had something that I was going to mention because I can mention it now because by the time this comes out, it will be a thing. Is that and it's not a big deal. It's not like super that amazing. But on Monday, I'm sneaking back into my Curse of Strahd game.
How exciting!
The players, yeah. So they don't know. None of them know I'm turning up apart from the DM.
Oh.
And they've just come down. So I've just found out yesterday. I forgot to mention this in the last recording, but so I had been chatting about it for a few weeks. I'm going to play one of the characters' uncle, who's like a really important figure that went into Barovia before and then got lost and supposedly died, but it's been like hiding in a temple that's been that has a hallowed spell on it. Mm-hmm. I've then decided for some reason I need to get back to the city, and then they've just come to the place where I'm hiding out in this other temple, and they've literally just gone. All they had at the last episode is you walk down a corridor, and you hear from a door behind you didn't notice before someone walk out, and we'll pick that up next week. And they don't know that then I'm gonna sit there and wait, and they're gonna do all the beginning intro. Hello, how you doing? La 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 la. So you turn around, and then they go wubba lubba dub dub.
Oh my god! Please go in with that energy.
I don't think that's gonna work.
But that'd be amazing.
So I'm quite excited about that.
That's so exciting. Well, it's so interesting because I am now myself on a Curse of Strahd kick, because recently, at the time of recording, we've just released an interview with Beth the Bard, who wrote She is the Ancient, the gender-bent Curse of Strahd, and I've been reading that again because that's been really, really interesting, but also I found because she did lots of great advice about artwork. So there's a person whose name I've now probably forgotten. I think it's James RPG Art. I think that's his name on Patreon, who does all this Curse of Strahd pictures that you could show up at certain points. So I've just gone and downloaded all of those and subscribed to his Patreon because I was those are really cool.
Awesome.
And then she recommended some music stuff, which I've now listened to, and now I'm I just want to run Curse of Strahd. So
well, aren't you going to run Curse of Strahd?
We're going back to it. We're so close to finishing a high level.
Yeah.
20th level thing. Actually, again, I forgot to mention this in the last recording as well. We just defeated a big bad, proper. Yeah, and
Which one was it? Was it the Queen of the Unseelie Court?
It wasn't her. She's the real big bad.
Oh, she's the real big bad.
But it's the one underneath that's been basically the one this whole campaign, the Queen of Witches, and it was we were planning it, and the sense of I have to do this, but you have to do this, you have to do this, and we thought we weren't going to get it, but then all these circumstances just lined up. We managed to banish her form to a different place. So she had to use up her legendary actions to get back, and then she was going away, and then we all teleported to where she was, and she couldn't run away, and then I stabbed her several times, and I got criticals, and it was just so funny because obviously we're all rolling stuff, and I was like, that's it, she's going to get away, and then the DM just goes, how do you kill her? And then we all just go, bah! And it was. I took some screenshots of it from the video we recorded of it, and we're just all there going, "Yay! Arms up! Hooray!"
Awesome.
We couldn't actually believe it. But yeah, it was super fun. So anyway, that campaign's coming now to an end, and the other players really want to continue the Curse of Strahd stuff. So thanks to Beth the Bard, I'm gonna try and. Basically, we're going to do a soft restart and change some of the stuff in Exit.
And you're going to go for the gender bent version?
Here's the thing. I was doing it as a gender bent version, but only Strahd at the top. None of the other things were. And actually reading Beth the Bard's book, I've changed my mind on quite a lot of things because there's some really good alternatives there.
I'm a bit worried to listen to it because I'm about to go back into it.
I was going to say, you're going back into it. Because you're currently an actor.
That's what I mean. So it's really annoying because I was I really want to listen to it because it's if I was going to run it, that's how I think. I've heard so many good things about Beth the Bard version. I also think it just seems so much cooler.
Yeah, I would say to you, read the introduction chapter because that's how she talks about her thinking about it. But it's full of spoilers for the main campaign, and I know you've not done it all, so I'm going to be like. So next year, Hamilton, when you finished it in some capacity, we'll have a big chat about it. But that's not what we're talking about today. Something completely different. So you sort of brought this up to me in the sense of because you'd never read this particular adventure before, and I actually thought it's a good one to talk about. So today we're talking about D&D versus Rick and Morty, the starter set.
Wubba lubba dub dub.
Wubba lubba dub dub. If in case nobody got that from the intro. Pickle Rick! My first question to you, Hamilton, are you a Rick and Morty fan?
No, I never watched it. Yeah, of course I am. I had a funny thing with it. So I think season 3 had just come out, and someone said to me, "Oh, have you watched Rick and Morty?" And I was like, "Nah, I've never watched it. I've always seen it." Like, I'm not sure. And they go, "But your favorite movie is Back to the Future, which it's basically based on. You like all nerdy things, and you always talk about like how you like anime and all this stuff, like in cartoons and stuff. But so you like Futurama. So why haven't you watched this?" And I go, "You know, wait, when you put it that way, I don't know why I haven't watched it." And then now it's one of my favorite things ever. So
because again, I am similar things. So in case for those folks who haven't watched any Rick and Morty for whatever reason, it is. I know it is everywhere, but we had that thing before about people getting put off by it. So Rick and Morty is an American adult animated science fiction sitcom created mostly by Dan Harmon for a company called Adult Swim. And the series follows the misadventures of a cynical mad scientist called Rick Sanchez and his good-hearted but fretful grandson, Morty Smith, who split their time between domestic life and interdimensional adventures. So that's all you need to know. Yeah, so very much Back to the Future.
You've got a very different... I had a description of it, which is Rick, an alcoholic sociopath and scientist, live with his daughter Beth. Apart from building gadgets, he takes his morally right but dim-wit grandson Morty on absurd intergalactic adventures.
Yeah, there's an expansion on it as well. So and I think I'm going to put this across now, because like I said, I don't think Rick and Morty is everyone's cup of tea. No. I certainly, in the more later series, because I don't like the fan base, which I know is, it's such a bluff thing to say, like, I was there before it was cool. Not true at all, but it's just that I think it's interesting what Dan Harmon's done, who is an amazing writer.
I think we've got to get Justin Roiland in there as well, because they are co-creators.
Absolutely. Yes, you're correct. Yeah, Justin Roiland as well. They're both amazing writers, and I just want to say, like, Dan Harmon, obviously, with creator of Community and Harmon Quest stuff, so there is that D&D sort of relationship there. He also very influential in writing circles as well. There's the Dan Harmon Story Circle as well, which is like an updated version of the Hero's Quest.
Oh yes, I know what you mean. Yeah, as in like the background to
Hero's Journey,
not the Hero's
Journey. Yeah, not the Hero's Quest. That's me putting it. I think it's one of the most iconic sort of sitcoms, comedy things in the last decade for sure. The one thing I do want to point out that's really, really interesting is that when they're voicing it, quite a lot of it is actually improvised. To the point that I can't remember who voices Rick Sanchez.
Justin Roiland.
He will drink before recording and just go for it, essentially. And you're like,
you can feel it though in the energy of it. It is the closest you get to a D&D campaign as a TV show, as in like a TTRPG campaign as a TV show, because there's so much like clearly is improvised.
Yes.
And I just wish, like, that's kind of what you'd want from a D&D game, is that someone very talented to add animation to it to actually make it watchable. Because that's what it really just needs. Because they just, well, the whole, like, they have a thing, people haven't watched it, the multiverse TV unit. I forgot what the term is for when they have it, like, it's called, they do lots of different episodes when it is all about that, but they have, that half of that is just all improvised. There's the one about the guy with the doors.
Oh yes, yeah,
I just love that guy. He's just like, he's like selling doors. I sell doors. They're not real doors. They're fake doors. The doors come down to the fake door shop, and then he walks out of the office, and they go, "Is this still part of the advert?" And he gets into his car and drives home, and it's like, "Oh, this is still the advert," and it's like so weird. It's like, it's just. Me and my friend Dan, when we were younger, used to make stupid YouTube videos, which are not on the internet anymore because they are so stupid. But that's the sort of crap we used to do. We used to just film ourselves making up TV shows all the time and being ridiculous. And I kind of just, it's a bunch of teenagers making stupid things, but they've got money and adult lives that make it available for us to watch. It's basically.
But you know what? You've hit on something there. It's like the closest we get to a D&D campaign. And what I take from that, actually, I do agree with that, because I guess when we're talking about like D&D campaigns, we're heroes and we're getting getting our way, we're doing stuff, and that's like the ideal version of it. And the reality version of it most of the time is that we are failing forward and hoping to God we get there.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. The actual meta commentary that you get from Rick and Morty is like they are quite often the anti-heroes. Now then, looking at this, so let me read you the press release from Wizards of the Coast. So, the world's greatest role-playing game meets television's most dysfunctional family. What could possibly go wrong? D&D has partnered with Adult Swim to bring this box set blending the worlds of Dungeons & Dragons with the mad, narcissistic genius of Rick Sanchez's power gaming sensibilities, and includes everything a Dungeon Master needs to channel their inner mad scientist and run a rickrolling adventure for up to 5 players, 1 to 3. This book is the perfect introduction to Dungeons & Dragons for fans of Rick and Morty. Choose characters from the Adult Swim show and learn to play D&D with a hilarious adventure with Rick's sarcastic meta-commentary, a narcissistic genius leading you every step of the way. That is it. That's a really good summary of this box set. It is, first 4 chapters is the very basic rules.
It's exactly the same rules you get in the basic pack, the basic set.
The 3 basic rules, or even in the player's handbook. But you have this voice throughout, which is obviously of Rick Sanchez, the lead character in it. And obviously we've talked about this before, with books like Tasha's and Volo's, that sort of thing, there is a voice throughout. Here, though, the voice is almost 50-50, almost contradicting every other paragraph and stuff, and you can really feel it in the writing.
I read a little bit of a review of it, and I think they put it very well, which is that if this is your first introduction to D&D, and you like Rick and Morty, it's a bit dangerous, because you might, even if you do know Rick's humour, you might think that some of this stuff is a good way to be a DM.
Yes.
And I think it's only until you are, if you're ingratiated in D&D, it's a much more enjoyable read, because you can laugh at the sort of like, the jokey, obviously is clearly not how a DM should be, but it's kind of funny. And you kind of, in some ways, play with your characters in those ways anyway, just to piss with them when you know them well enough. But if you're not, if you go straight into D&D and take these as like, oh, this is how a DM should be, it's going to go well.
There's no session 0 rules in this starter set.
Yeah, exactly. Some of there's so many great little ticks in there, and like meta as well, when he takes the piss out of them, like being too capitalist and stuff like that.
Already upselling. You see that, Morty?
Exactly, yeah. Playing D&D is good, but running it is a total power load, Morty. You gotta be a god, Morty. You control the horizontal and vertical, you tell the players what's going on, then you entertain their asses with your brilliance, Morty. You get a little taste of what it's like to be me all the time.
And I think this is an interesting point, because I'm sure we're going to talk about this quite a lot, because I've actually run the adventure, and I've read through this setting before and stuff like that. And what drew me to it was the fact that you could be this sort of DM who's sort of like, big ego, power sort of thing, and being, I don't want to say crass or rude, but like making fun of your players in a mean and in quotation marks way, but also at the expense of making yourself like the big idiot, the big character. You are playing a character as this DM, and I was like, I really relish in it. But I know some people might not want that, because a DM, you're supposed to be impartial, you're supposed to be like one of the things. But what I find interesting with this whole adventure, it is kind of geared around the DM, and the players, I'll be honest, don't matter too much. So it was for me, it was very interesting, because I've run it through twice now, and both times I didn't tell the players we were playing a Rick and Morty inspired adventure, and I don't know if it worked. I think I might have to mention and spoil it essentially, and say, by the way, it's going to be this. Yeah. There might be some things that just let you know, I'm not like this as a DM.
It's not how I really want to be, but this is part of the game. Like, it's kind of, I think you just need to know, I think if you know you well enough and you know as a DM, you're not normally likely to say, hey, we're playing a Rick and Morty one, I'm sort of playing Rick as the DM. Yeah. And that's all you need to say. And then they'll know that this is not how you DM. Because you're not normally, Fiona, I assume, the sort of person that goes, you're not winning until someone cries.
But how much do I want to be? My little Slytherin heart is like...
I know, that's the thing. That makes, when he goes, the group might fail to complete an adventure setting, but if the players had a good time, create a memorable story, they all win. A nice sales pitch, but it's horse poop, Morty. Life is about winners and losers. Captain Drama Pants here doesn't want to admit that when his character dies, he's a loser, but he is. Let me get this really clear. The Dungeon Master is a winner by default, but being in charge is messing with your friends makes you top dog. After that, it comes down to who gets the most fat loot, experience points, and who rolled the best. It's good.
How cool. And again, this is just a credit to the writers of being able to put through such a strong character, even in that writing. Even if you didn't know Rick and Morty that well, if you knew he was just like a bit of an arsehole with someone, like a narcissist, something, saying these things, you're like, yep. And you can tell with the writing is like not being super serious as well. Was there anything that particularly stood out to you from the box set? Was there anything that you were like, oh, this is really cool, I really like this?
I think the thing that I think that what they've got is the humour completely right, and I just love it as I said, being someone who's played a lot of D&D, knows all the tropes, knows all the jokes that we make about bad DMs, bad players, and good, and the stupid things that you do anyway. I just love the little interlude by Morty. It's just it's a very fun read, and you do have those things. You just can feel like sometimes you've had those moments when you just want to, when he keeps talking about that one I've mentioned to you before off camera, which is the Maureen one, which is like, this is advantage, disadvantage. Thing is perfect to use against annoying players. If your player Maureen says, which always reminds me of like our ranger, Angela. Shouldn't these goblins run away after we killed 72 of their pals? You just look her right in the eye and say, no, Maureen, they shouldn't. These goblins are hopped up on no blood and they chugged before the battle. Now they've got advantage. How do you like that, Maureen? And then don't let the players turn this back on you either. When Maureen's character, Flaro the Fearless, tries to chug no blood on his own, you shake your head and say, nuts, Maureen. That no blood is toxic to dwarves. Now you got disadvantage on your rolls, Maureen. Finger guns optional.
Finger guns. That's the thing.
Because you would never do it, but you do it as a joke to players you know well enough. Like I know, like Will in all my games I make terrible puns. Will makes terrible puns, but when Will makes terrible puns, I will give him disadvantage on his next rolls because I will give him inverse inspiration.
I love that. Like you said, if you know the players well, then and have that sort of fun, it's great.
Yeah.
So they've also added some stuff as well. So there's something called the surprise table. So I'll read out the quote from it. Remember before when I said stuff about messing with your players' expectation? Combat and non-combat surprises are crucial to that, Morty. If one of your players is wasting too much time searching for shit that doesn't matter, or getting weepy about their character's backstory, just yell, surprise! And drop a random encounter on their asses. And then it's like a D12 table of surprises that you can... And I just love that, because so players talk too much or whatever.
Just Leroy Merlin them.
Just like have a timer on my phone and go, surprise! And then just roll 2 flame skulls flying in.
The other one that I really enjoyed was the saving throw ones. This is the core of it, Morty. Force them to jump through pointless hoops for your own entertainment. Some players think they're untouchable, Morty. This is how you touch them with the finger of God.
Oh, that's so funny.
It's so good. It's just like, because you do have that power as DM, and that's what it's like. The thing is, you are God in the scenario. You literally can just say no, and you don't. Yeah. And what it shows is like the whole point of it is is about making a collaborative game. But if you took the core of it, you could. With great power comes great responsibility, Fiona. And as with that, if you are Rick, you will, kill everyone.
There's also like a critical failed condition table as well when they get a natural 1, which again I love. The only thing I wanted to say about that combat section is that there's still XP that's still mentioned, and I'm kind of surprised that that's still mentioned. Maybe just because it's just like just keep it in because it's in the basic rules, perhaps. But I'm just like, there's not much of a comment on it. I'd be like, fuck it, we don't have time for this, Morty. Like, you're level 10 now. I don't care. There's a chapter on spellcasting, so obviously there's a little bit of spellcasting through like levels 1 to 3, so they get all the ones that you might need for this adventure that's coming up. And Rick has done a rating on all the spells.
Oh yeah, that's it. I'm trying to get to it now. Yeah,
I love it because I think it's something that you have in the back of your head because obviously you're like, oh yeah, maybe I want this spell, and it's just like no.
I do love I thought this was calling me out, this one, when you get to spellcasting though, because it goes, this is the real stuff right here. It's magic, Morty. Blazing fire shooting out your fingertips, mind control, teleportation, other badass power moves. Yeah, your rogue could pick a lock and climb a wall. I just blew that fucking door off its hinges, then flew past you on my way to my eldritch glory. Eat my sparkly ass. It's just like, all right, I'm sorry, Rick.
I will say as well, again, for context as well, and I know this is me explaining a joke, so instantly it's like more as a result, but Jerry, the character in Rick and Morty, is the one that everyone makes fun of because he's just the boring, know-nothing thing. But I love the fact that certain spells, which obviously Rick finds boring, he just names them Jerry spells.
Yes, that's true, yeah.
This is a spell that Jerry would take.
Yeah, exactly. And you can so tell them that he's such a wizard because he obviously goes, prepared spells? This is a feeble attempt to try and impose some kind of cap on wizardly supremacy. If I've ever played at your table, you can ignore these limits. They're unnecessary. It's like, yeah. No, but so I love the Jerry ones. I'm trying to get to them now, actually. Where are they?
There's like Fireball. Oh, hell yes.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Lightning Bolt. Yes. Big Zap. Protection from energy. Jerry spell.
Sanctuary. Jerry spell. Guiding Bolt. Yes, burn. Spirit Guardians. Okay. Dancing Lights. Jerry spell. Blur. Meh. I love that.
Yeah, I think I quite like that because, again, just from my own experience of like going through it and going, no, not a great spell. Oh, that could be cool. And then, it's rubbish. That sort of thing. It's like quite nice to have that almost reconfirmed in a way with someone else's character on top of that.
The more intensive ones are like augury. This is for theatre marriages and Jerry's. Don't worry about divining the future when you play D&D. Morty, the story will find you when you start killing. Yeah, and bless. Almost a Jerry spell, but at least you can pump a bunch of people so they can kill shit better.
It's such a great writing one.
Charm person, sorry. Jerry needs a spell just to make friends. If you really want to charm someone, do what everyone else does. Get rich and buy their loyalty.
The one thing I wanted to mention, so then it goes into like, once you've done all those 4 chapters, you had the appendixes, but I really like the final appendix.
Appendix B. Yes.
Yeah, Appendix B.
What is the fucking point?
And I think this is actually like a really genuine feeling thing to it, because obviously it says you've read like 65 pages or whatever of those rules, and he says, none of this matters.
Yeah.
These rules don't mean shit.
I feel me and Rick are coming more closer, because what I say in every one of our shows at the moment is like, and you don't have to do any of this, and literally is a whole page at the end, which I don't think they do enough in Dungeons & Dragons, because obviously but they do in the Dungeon Master's Guide a bit more, and other books sometimes they obviously say, feel free to make it, the whole idea that whatever's canon in your world is canon sort of thing.
Yes,
and so
absolutely, yes, in all the Forgotten Realms, yeah, absolutely. And I kind of wish, I guess obviously it makes sense to put it after all the rule stuff, but I kind of wish it was at the front. Yeah. Not because it's like really important or anything like that, but I just think the writing of it is so good, and it feels like a big monologue, as if it's that bit at the end of the episode. Rick is talking to Morty about it, and it's like, you got to understand the rules don't mean shit, And I'm just like, I just thought it was such a good bit of writing, so I would highly recommend reading that if you.
No, I do. The best bit of it, and I think it's like it sums it up in the thing, is like your brain is focused on the game as instead of the game as it could be, Morty. I told you at the start that D&D is a portal gun, and I mean that. Even while I was taking pot shots at Wizard Coast and their corporate over-being encounters. It's a weird little place where everyone gets to gut goblins and blast bugbears and be kind of sort of awesome for a little while. Sometimes it's weird and annoying, but when it works, Morty, when it really works and your players are putty in the palm of your hand, their hopes and dreams hang in your every word and roll of the dice, that's why we do this. Get it?
So true.
It's very true. And at the end of it, roll the dice, get stupid is like my new motto.
I love that, yeah. This is the first sort of collaboration that doesn't take itself so seriously. So like the other collaborations, like the Stranger Things starter set, Critical Role, Acquisitions Incorporated, they all have D&D at their core, and they're all pretty serious to an extent. Even I would say Acquisitions Incorporated, even though it's like it's making fun of the genre, but it's like taking itself seriously to a point.
That.
Yeah. Whereas this is like, it knows and it's okay.
Yeah, it's very self-aware. But you couldn't be Rick and Morty without it. Adventure then. So yes. I as I said to your camera, I watched an actual play.
Yeah, tell me how that went.
Well, I won't say who it was.
No.
So
Uh-oh.
But I will say that it was fine, because what I thought is, you told me that when we first said we were going to do this, you told me how you played it, and how you kind of got 2 of your really good friends, and you got merry with a bit of alcohol, I think, so you did, and you just had a lot of a fun evening with some really close friends that you played D&D with before, and you just inhabited the Rick. And I can imagine, yes, that's what I would. So I thought, okay, these people, whoever they were, should know what they're doing, got a good production values. Maybe this will be really good. Again, not mentioning who they are. And actually the players, to be fair, really inhabited their characters, but the DM didn't do any of this rickety business, I'd say. They didn't do it as much. I mean, they were taking the mick out of Morty, and they were sort of doing it, but it wasn't like scathing or Ricky enough that, and that's fine, but it's not, like I kind of got through 30 minutes and then I skipped another 20 minutes, and then I watched the second half thinking, okay, maybe now they're gonna get into it, and then I was like, come on, what's gonna happen? And they got some cool loot, and I was like, okay. So I felt a bit like, a bit lost on that. So maybe,
Yeah.
and so it was a bit of a shame. So maybe I should have read it more because I thought that would be a better way of enjoying it.
Here's the thing, though, because I think a lot of the people will get the sort of the main source of it through watching actual plays. I mean, I get that a lot, like through other RPGs. I'll instantly go and watch an actual play of an RPG that I'm going to run. So I think you do what most people do, and also it makes sense, right? Because you could read it, but also you're like, I want to see people actually acting it out. One thing I would say though, like, so with all Wizard of the Coast adventures, obviously they have the little box text that you can read out and stuff like that. And each of the box texts, the actual adventure, I think it's really interesting that, the Lost Dungeon of Rickness is what the adventure is called. Rickedness, sorry. Yes, exactly. Big Rick energy.
Yeah.
I think it is quite nerve-wracking because I remember sitting there having like a drink in and I was like, all right, I have to be a little bit mean to my players. Yeah. And I just did it. And because, again, tooting my own horn here a little bit, I've done some improv. I can inhabit like being a bit of an egotistical, honest, there is a separate between me and my ego, I promise. So I managed to do it. But I think it's actually quite scary to do that anyway with a group of strangers, but also on a stream as well, where you might be taken out of context. I think this one would have been really good to do if it was, for example, people who'd worked on the show.
Well, that's what I was hoping for. Dan Harmon, getting the actual people who played them to play this would be like perfect, because that would just sell it, obviously.
Because you could really like get involved with it and stuff like that, and I think that would be a big drive in general. But it sounds like that's not what happened with this particular actual play, and that's a shame, I think. But at the same time, I can imagine on the experience for me was that I was doing it with friends in person. It was like our little in-joke. Because I will say, a lot of the stuff, some of the stuff in here might not be very PC, depending on who's watching it, So it's like, maybe they don't want to put it all online or anything.
Well, that's the thing, and I think that's the problem. But it just felt it did feel as an adventure from one watching it. It's very combat heavy. It's not very roleplay heavy. I mean, going off like the first thing in the beginning says, you're an adventurer, maybe you're a good adventurer, whatever. Why are you here? No one cares. Don't pay your backstory. We're here to kick ass and find treasure. That's your motivation. Now go get to roll. And it's like it's not a very roleplay heavy game, apart from potentially between your characters if you know the characters very well. But again, I find that it would be, unless you know the show well enough and being able to inhabit those characters perfectly, you know already you're going to take the piss out of whoever's playing Jerry, and you know that like Beth's going to be kick-ass and pretend she's a doctor all the time and all that stuff, but it doesn't give you the full experience of D&D.
It almost answers my next question in a way. So on this particular stream that you were watching, were they playing the pre-generated characters? Yeah. Interesting. So in both times I've run it, I've asked them to bring their own characters to it and justified it in that way, because again, I wasn't entirely sure if they knew a lot about Rick and Morty anyway, and I didn't want to and also I didn't tell them it was going to be Rick and Morty, so I didn't want to give that away. But also, it's such a small thing. Getting the pre-generated characters as a form fillable, like as a, I guess obviously now in D&D Beyond you could create them easily enough. They clearly were meant for printing out and handing to people rather than as an online play, so you can't really change stuff as well. So that also was another thing which I was like, don't really like that. But I wasn't really inspired by any of the characters per se. Yeah. But I know that those dynamics, if you know the show really well, like everyone is going to pick on Jerry, all that sort of thing. People poke fun at Morty, and the women are pretty badass, So, but going to your point about the combat stuff, the actual adventure itself is a really interesting one. There is definitely combat in it, but a lot of the rooms, a lot of the locations in it, they're mostly are big tropes of dungeons, but also big tropes from Rick and Morty, the show anyway. Yeah. But there's a dialogue in it, and this is obviously massive spoilers for people who aren't going to play it, but obviously as a dungeon master, you get further and further on, obviously you're lording your power over these rooms, and you're punishing players in the fun way because they get puzzles wrong. A lot of these rooms are actually puzzles and negotiation things that you could also find as well. But it gets to a point about 2/3 of the way in where you, the DM, are kidnapped and replaced by somebody else. Rick Sanchez is replaced by somebody else who is lovely and nice, and you're like, oh, you now come to a butterfly room, isn't that lovely, all that sort of thing. And then you get to the final big boss room, and it turns out the DM whoever is taken over wants you to get whatever Rick Sanchez has got hidden in this dungeon at the end. And you have a big boss battle where you rescue Rick, the DM, who then ends the boss battle for you because the DM has the most power and just destroys the big bad for you. So the players get nothing. And then they're like, come on, chaps, let's go, and then you blast your way out with a portal gun, and that's the end of the adventure.
Yeah.
So it is, I love it, because it's like, I love the twist about being replaced as a DM. I love the fact that, it's all about you in the end. And then even then, you're the winner, DM is the winner, right? You beat the big boss that you created, and the players get nothing. It is one of the most satisfying things as a DM. And obviously, I know it's not for everyone, but the players who've been playing along this whole time, they're like, we've been duped, and we loved it.
I didn't get much of that from the one I watched.
Yeah,
sure. So that's what was a shame. So yeah, okay. Well, so it sounds like this is the thing. I think I need Fiona. Go get some friends, go do it and film it and put it out there.
Oh man, I would love to. I actually would love to. Maybe we'd have to do like an audio one shot of it.
I'd love it, yeah. I also like the idea there's the Chapel of the Butlers, because the whole thing about the Butlers people, because their butts have been stolen by this portal.
This big butt trap. It's great. Yeah, and I will say, so there's like 39 rooms in total in this whole dungeon, and each one of the rooms, like, you could easily take and put in, if you were running like Undermountain or any other...
There's a lot of rooms. There's so many, and there is a lot of different things, and there's a lot of things that take, as you said, take the piss out of like tropes, like the whole thing about, like, it says like orcs, like why are they all evil, like, kind of like mentally goes like, why are they all evil? Like, just because they've actually, like, it does take the mick out of the D&D sort of tropes as well, which is kind of good. I did think it lacked a lot of the, like, it has the lycanthrope pickles, but it didn't have any like other Rick and Morty sort of monsters, like the name of the guy who's the director, when they make the flu virus and mix it with the love potion, it turns everyone into
vaguely, yes, I know who you mean.
He turns everyone into I've forgotten the name of it, but like a Gazorpazorp or something like that would be something like one. And there's no Aarakocra. Why is it not?
There's no Aarakocra. I know.
And it's because they don't have the basic rules, probably.
Again, I feel it's like, you don't have to be a huge fan of Rick and Morty, but it's very helpful. So, for example, there is a Mr. Meeseek's room where you as a DM get to really relish in them. Like, so basically there's a box on a pedestal with a button, and no doubt someone's going to press the button, pick up the box and press the button, and a bold blue sort of alien creature appears. It's like, hi, Mr. Meeseeks!
Yeah, exactly.
It's a great role-playing thing. So you have to start going, hello, how can I help? All that sort of thing. And the great thing is that they're immune to damage.
Yes.
They can't be killed by any means. So that's a whole thing. But yeah, a lot of these things I think that's really interesting. Like, there are opportunities to role play stuff, but also, like you said, to flip the sort of stereotypes on its head. So, for example, there's two rooms. There's the orc gift room, and followed by the festive dinner room. And you see some very stereotypical orcs taking something into bags and running away. And you're like, oh, stop! And then presumably you'd fight them in some way, and then you may kill them. Go into the next room, and it looks like everyone's sitting down to dinner. All these orcs, and like, oh, you're not Mummy. Oh, where's Mummy? She said she's going to bring me a gift. And you're like, we're the bad people here.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then you lift up the lid and find that they're about to eat a goblin for dinner.
Yeah, exactly. So it flips it back again, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be many like alien creatures in it.
Cronenbergs is the name I was looking for.
Cronenbergs, there you go. There you go. So there's not much of that. I wonder, because
Rick and Morty do Spelljammer?
Well, yeah, that for me would be the next leap, right? They do like an adventure, Spelljammer-esque something.
Yeah.
One room I do want to mention is the writer's room, which so it's room 8, and essentially you get into like this corridor and there's somebody writing at a desk, and they're like, I must finish this deadline, and you as a DM's like, oh yeah, I couldn't finish the dungeon, so I employed her, and so she extends the room, and you have to pass all these obstacles to get to her and convince her to help you in some way. And I quite like that, because you can imagine that being a big map. You can put up traps and everything like that.
I love it.
It's a really fun little thing. Again, it's the first time you show that you're a bit of a dick, and like this is like you making stuff up on the spot, essentially. All these rooms you can literally lift and put somewhere else. Like a big favourite of mine is the Magic Mouth room, which is like your first big puzzle room, essentially. There's a horrible like glittering gob in the wall, and you're like, hello, and it says you have to be as mouthy as possible to give them the riddle they have to answer, and be very distracting, which I love. I love tips like that. Say, be distracting, be irritating.
Very annoying. Yeah, exactly. It's like so in Xanathar's when you get Xanathar's in Dragon Heist, they have this person. I've forgotten the name. I'm gonna have to very quickly find
do
it.
a Google. I'll tell you another one whilst you're looking that up. So another one of my favourite rooms is one called the Clone Room, which is really later on. I'll read you the description of it. This room is totally and completely and suspiciously empty. The only visible feature is the exit door on the other side. The far door opens and an identical party of adventurers enters, eyeing you suspiciously. It's not a cursed mirror or whatever. I'm not a damn hack. These are identical versions of you. In the interest of efficiency, I sent another dimension's versions of you into the dungeon right where you started. Admittedly, this meeting is pretty awkward, but I'm sure we can sort it out.
Yeah, that's so good.
How funny!
I remember the one that was what I was getting to as well, was the gnome clown. So they randomly, if you go to Xanathar's lair, there is a gnome clown, a deep gnome in Clownish Guard, is dancing and cartwheeling up and down the hall between the statues.
Oh, no, thanks.
A scarcely dressed deep gnome, Flutterfoot Zipswiggle, serves Xanathar as a jester. He carries a packet containing dust of disappearance. Unknown to Flutterfoot, the beholder is tired of the deep gnome and plans to turn him to stone when they next meet.
Oh, no!
Flutterfoot knows the features and layouts of Xanathar's lair as well as the beholder's current whereabouts and the locations of all secret doors except one of them. He gleefully offers to serve as a guide if the characters correctly answer a riddle, right? And so I read this and went, right, it's time to freaking annoy my players. And they hated them, but they knew how useful they would be. So it was like, they found one of the secret doors that led directly into this room where he's like cartwheeling about. And I just go, hello, hi there, how are you? Oh, we're going to have fun. And just talk like this. And they were like, shut up. And I'm like, no, it's Flutterfoot Zipswiggle. Woo! Like this the whole time. And I was like, answer this riddle. And he goes, I know where all the secrets are. And stuff like that. And so they're like, he's really freaking useful, but I really hate him.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, you know how good a character is like that. And
exactly.
It allows you to be fun as a DM. And also the players go, oh, it's really good. Compared to the normal thing that happens where the players go, we love this NPC. And you're like, oh, I just pulled that out of my arse like 2 sessions ago.
Yeah. No, it's so true. But I think that's why, I don't know when this came out, but I think it shows that there is that, I felt Dragon Heist is a bit of a lighter comedy version of D&D generally anyway, but the Rick and Morty takes it to another level. What it does do, reading through these new ones, is actually teaches you how to be a dungeon master in a really like advanced way of like how to really play up dungeon rooms and be very meta about it and what open the expanses up. So again, I think it still comes back to this feeling like this is definitely something for more experienced players and DMs. But as much as it's maybe people who like Rick and Morty will get into Dungeons & Dragons, but let's be honest, potentially there's probably more likely to be a good crossover, and that this is probably better served as a thing for Dungeons and Dragons fans to buy into.
I think so. So with that in mind then, we've sort of mentioned before about these other collaborations, so the Stranger Things, that's the other sort of big starter set for that came out a couple of years ago as well. I sort of pitched to you, like, what are the, not settings, because obviously any film or genre can be a D&D setting or another RPG setting, but I just thought, what's a brand or a franchise that's been really big but doesn't necessarily have an RPG system itself or isn't been in D&D yet, like a collaboration like this, where it's niche enough to be popular, but also like people are like, does this work as a D&D thing? The one thing that's very similar to this, which doesn't necessarily use D&D, but I was like, it makes sense. You've got a DM who's boisterous and like adds things to it, is of course Wonderland's Bunkers and Badasses, which is actually an RPG that's come out.
Yes, it has come out, and they've made one, haven't they?
So that it is D&D light in a way, but what's the sort of unique thing about it? So it uses similar sort of things, is that you can get completely randomized guns, like you can in Borderlands anyway. But that's the big thing. When you pick up loot, you have to roll for it, and you get cards, and you can put stickers on and everything like that. So you can be really customized in what you pick up. I
mean, a Tiny Tina's version of this would be great. Tiny Tina's Intro to D&D or something like that would be really good.
Yeah, I think, I don't have my book to hand because it's packed away in one of the boxes, but there are adventures in the Bunkers and Badasses RPG, which is similar to this. But again, it's not fully D&D. It's
Yeah.
a little bit different to me, but that's the one, because again, you've got the big voice in that, you've got very big characters, silliness. It's different in a way because it's like, we've got guns. Whereas here, it was Rick and Morty, it's like, we've got science and ray guns and all that sort of thing, but it's a high fantasy dungeon. Same thing, but with guns, I guess, and that Borderlands humour as well coming through.
See, I found it very difficult because I think a lot of the ones, as you said, are already done. I think you picked up on some good ones that I'm going to pick up from you, which is all the LucasArts games, like have a very similar sort of on the nose humour. So
yeah,
and I think, as I've mentioned a few times, that the piracy is in like pirates themes in D&D is very lacking. So Monkey Island is a great shout.
Yeah, Monkey Island, or having a Sea of Thieves type one.
Exactly.
I think pirates will never go away. Pirates forever. Yar.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Yar.
But yeah, I agree. It's the humour of it as well. And actually, again, jumping from that LucasArts thing, because I know they're similar in companies, is the Psychonauts games. Have you played those at all?
Yeah, I know of them. Yeah, I've not played them.
But again, it has a similar sort of humour decided as a kid, that you go into people's minds and you pick up collectibles which are known as emotional baggage, which I fucking love. So stuff like that, I can easily see like a one shot.
What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh my god. Yeah, it's a Domain of Dread.
Or like written by Nandar. Oh no, Guillermo,
of course.
Guillermo wrote his own like D&D adventure, which is like all based on him being like a super awesome evil vampire lord.
Yeah, and all the party, you get Colin Robinson in there as well.
Yeah, emotional vampires. Yes. My other crazy one that I've just come up with on that. Parks and Rec crossover with Ben making a Cones of Dunshire, Cones of Dunshire D&D adventure module, beginner set explained by Ben, but in stop motion animation.
So it's like the first 2 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. And then cuts out.
Because that would be really wholesome as well. Because you can have, because everyone's really lovely and very different.
Yeah, and then you have Amber playing Strahd.
I knew it. You put him back into that. But then you could have Jerry, who's actually the MVP of the whole campaign.
Exactly.
Like, oh, bloody Jerry! Yeah, different kind of Jerry.
Yes. Yeah, different, similar in some respects.
Similar, but like very lovely. Like, I have 3 daughters. We're all very lovely.
And Tom being like the bard or something, definitely because of high charisma, you know. And then
I love that. Parks and Rec, like one-shot RPG, like that set like that would be really cool. The other ones I thought of, because you've been watching it quite a lot and it's on my watch list, is The Boys. This idea of having superheroes or adventures, but leaving devastation in their wake. So maybe you even play as like NPC characters, really, and you have to clean up after, we've sent off all these people, bloody hell, you have to build them or something like that. You have to take some sort of like petition saying, we want you to stop saving our villages because you're actually destroying them.
That would be good. I think that would be good. It'd be a tough. I don't think Wizard would go down the boys route, as I said, but I think it would be. I think it would be interesting.
I agree. Yeah, I will say, for anyone who's interested, The Boys is a graphic novel, but it's also on Amazon. As a thing, it's definitely one of our favourite TV shows. But yeah, it's if you don't like Rick and Morty, you won't like The Boys. You don't like The Boys. Which is it's a shame because it's a really cool concept. I really love the idea behind it.
I can't think of any others. The only ones I was remembering was that TSR owned the rights to in the past was other Lucasfilms things. So they did do Indiana Jones, which just leads me on to like Uncharted.
Ooh, an Uncharted like starter set. Yeah.
The thing that what the 3 pillars are: exploration, role play, and combat. I think are the 3 pillars.
Yep.
And I think exploration as a major theme in D&D hasn't been around since Planescape, probably, which is very much an exploration based, functionally, I don't know, based around planar exploration. However, I feel like there isn't I feel like a really cool campaign setting that is missing is like, you're a series of archaeologists in war, at a war to deep, and you're going to go and find here's 5 adventures that all link to like some sort of ancient temples where you're finding artifacts that all link back to some sort of like, I don't know, some like maybe 3-chapter Temple of Doom sort of style things.
The Tomb of Annihilation, but without the annihilation part, really.
Yeah, exactly, But if it was more mini, and then you fly around to like a Candlekeep to pick up, like to do some clue searching to find out the
map of the Unforgotten Realms, and then you could chart it.
Exactly,
that'd be quite cute.
You know what I mean? Do the little flying around a bit. So there's a few different areas you go to that all lead to like finding out some sort of ancient. I don't know, it just feels like that's sort of missing. Maybe I've missed
I
it.
think that'd be a really interesting one as well, because like I said, the Rick and Morty one isn't necessarily combat heavy. There is obviously there are ways to get around it, I think. But I agree. I think having a purely sort of exploration one, because I can imagine that again with that sort of the Chult setting and with all the little mini god temples that you go and pick up stuff from, that could be really interesting. And if you're racing against time as well, against somebody else.
Racing against time, get to Calamshan, then you have to jump over to Candlekeep, then you're in Waterdeep. I know you do that a bit in Tyranny of Dragons. There's a lot of jumping around, but
you're not necessarily racing against another group of people, whereas compared to
I guess the Cult of Dragons a little bit, but you're kind of chasing off, stopping them doing bad stuff. You're not racing against them, I guess. So you're right.
No, I'm just trying to remember what it's called. The
Netherdeep.
That was it. Yeah, I was like, what's the name of the Critical Role? Yeah, so you have where you aren't the chosen ones, it's somebody else. So having that group of rivals that beat you to things.
Maybe that one is more like that, because that is about going some. I don't know. I've just got this thing in my mind.
No, I love it. I think there's something to do there. And again, just to emphasize, we do know there are other RPG settings and other 100%. Systems. We know that, but I'm just thinking something that is this collaboration that makes that point. It's like, oh, that could be interesting. Yeah. The other ones I thought of were the Matrix in general, sort of like if you can you can have the Spelljammer influences there, like going, getting on the Nebuchadnezzar, going down to that hidden city, etc., and going into all these places that aren't real because they've been made up because their planes have been created to keep those inhabitants in as they suck off their life forces or something like that. That'd be quite interesting. And then finally was Resident Evil, particularly number 7, which is all about the Baker household, which is horrific, and then Village, which is the most recent one, which is obviously set in a scary town with obviously a big castle. So you get those as sort of very big sort of gothic themes, and so instantly do different kinds of domains of dread where you can have one shots in as well, and just have this idea of this virus is actually a very real thing that sort of connects everything and it's spreading throughout and infecting people, and maybe you have to work out.
Maybe like Ash versus the Evil Dead.
Oh, that would be good.
I'm just trying to think of things that are like humorous versions of, because I think like if it's a serious thing, this is what I'm thinking why they haven't really gone down the serious route, apart from if they are either playing actual D&D in the game, is that Ash vs. Evil Dead is stupid.
You know what? Ash vs. Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, that sort of thing, that would really work well, because it is just silly and it's like, groovy, all right.
And Ash being the person that talks you through it and sort of like, these are the zombies you've got to watch out for. And people were saying that there isn't enough zombies in D&D. I mean, I'm not a massive fan of zombie films generally, to be honest. So like, that's probably, I'm not the best person to push for it, but I find them a bit generic and also find it a bit scary. They're the ones that actually freak me out.
But you could have stuff like, is it Dale and Tucker versus Evil, where it's like two hillbillies accidentally, they're in like, there's like a group of campers or something who keep dying in mysterious, like, uncircumstances, and there's two hillbillies, and they think it's the hillbillies doing all the murders, and they're not, they're just really nice guys. Like, don't do that, don't drink the water, oh shit, oh no, you died. It's really funny as a film.
Is it good? Okay.
I will say it might be dated now, but it's just idea of it's just very silly concept of like, oh no, because everyone's thinking, oh, these hillbillies, they're the ones that are killing everyone, and it's like they're just two nice guys who are just caught up and stuff, and they try and save someone, and they think, oh no, she's been kidnapped, quick, we must attack the house. Hamilton, thank you so much for what a great talk about that topic. I think there's something in it, and like I said, I recommend reading it through for sure. Sounds like there's some actual plays out there. See, I would actually run this. I'd give a go running it just because it's a bit silly and stuff. And if it's not your cup of tea, totally fine as well. Because again, like I said, it's a bit like Marmite, I think. You're going to really, really love it, or you're really, really going to hate it.
Well, why don't we leave you with the disclaimer? We at Wizards of the Coast here on Earth C-132 do not agree with our mirror selves on Earth C-141. Rick Sanchez was not, nor ever will be, considered the greatest effing dungeon master designer of all time, even if he does have that very quote tattooed across his entire back, which is evidently how you qualify for jobs in C-141.
Amazing. Well, Hamilton, when you're not talking to me about very niche D&D modules, exactly. Where can we find your work? What are you up to?
What am I doing? What am I doing? Who am I?
What are you doing?
What am I doing? I'm hoping by now Mork is out. It's got to be out by now. I hope if it isn't, then I failed you all. I'm very sorry. Then there's going to be some pirate stuff coming up soon.
Yeah.
And then soon after that, there is Spelljammer, Bowie's Spelljammers.
Bowie's in space.
Something cool. I can't say yet.
You can't say
confirmed that it's not written down. Let's just say there's gonna. I can say the concept. I can say the concept.
Concept. Go for the concept. Yes, please.
It's Bowie in space. It's basically a Spelljammer filled with basically everyone on the spaceship is an alter ego of Bowie's alter ego. So you've got Ziggy Stardust, you've got Aladdin Sane, you've got Halloween Jack, maybe there's a Diamond Dog in there somewhere, all this sort of stuff. And the first series is going to be called Scary Monsters and Super Creeps because it's named after that album. And every episode is going to be titled after the titles of the tracks. There'll be the Rocker Brawl, there will be Nyogi, there's going to be, I'm sure I'll chuck a GIF in there, or a GIF, however you want to say it. And
however Bowie says it.
Bowie says it. Bowie. Exactly. Bowie says GIF, Bowie says GIF, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got some fun plans.
I can't wait to see it, hear it, and
live it. Well, exactly. Maybe if I can grab Fiona to be a part of it at some point.
Yep.
I'm trying to grab people in a very consensual way.
You
collect
ask first,
people.
yes.
Collect people is what I mean. No, that's worse even. I'm reaching out to lots of people and trying to get lots of amazing people on board, which I think I already have, so I'm quite excited.
I'm very excited by it as well.
That's my drums. That's it. What about, what time is it? Where are we? Who are you? How are you? When? Now? Question mark.
What time is it? Well, nearly midnight.
Yeah.
What was your second question? Like,
who are you?
Who am I? I am Fiona. I'm Fiona of this podcast.
When?
When am I? It is at time of recording. It is a Thursday in July, and it's very warm.
How are you?
I'm all right.
And where?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. So where is what am I rolling?
We practiced that for hours.
Yeah, seamless. A twice monthly RPG one-shot podcast. As always, it's going very, very well. We run different one-shots of different RPG systems and have some interviews with game designers in between. We've done stuff like Numenera that's come out. We've done You Awaken in a Strange Place. Yes, that's the one. We've done solo RPGs.
Long Haul 1983. You've done Labyrinth. You had the most podcasts on recently.
Yes. Yeah, all good things. And we've got over 100 episodes now. I genuinely can't believe. I know.
Centenary. Have you done 100 of these yet?
Probably.
Yeah, I'm thinking you must have done. And by the way, everyone at home, Fiona is amazing and the best person in every single show on Where, as she says herself.
I do. If you want to listen to more about me, listen to all the episodes of Where.
If you want to see where they got the concept for Rick as a DM.
Finally, also, we have an offer code. If you, like us, like RPGs, like gaming in general, of the tabletop variety, you can get an offer code at Third Space Gaming in Burnley, your friendly local game store, Burnley. You type in DNBC into checkout. You've got to do the hand gestures in order to get the checkout number, and it's 10% off your first order, whether that's terrain, whether that's dice, whether that's an RPG, whether that's Radiant Citadel, which probably is already out by now, or maybe it's Spelljammer. Get the pre-order.
Might even be out by now, maybe.
Or any other pre-order from Wizards of the Coast. Thank you so much for listening, folks, and we will see you on the flip side. Bye.
Bye.